I didn't belong in a place like that, not with crystal chandeliers throwing rainbows over white linen and a wine list thicker than my rent folder. But there I was, third day on dish duty at Maison de Sel on Seattle's waterfront sleeves, damp fingers pruned, pretending hot water could scrub panic off my skin. I was just trying to keep my head above bills, Mom's hospital debt still nipping at my heels, my little brother asking if he could afford summer labs before freshman year. And then Sophia called in sick. The floor manager snapped his fingers, and suddenly I was holding a tray like it was a shield. Table 12. The corner one. The man everyone whispered about. Marcus Ellison, the tech billionaire who bought and sold companies like I buy day-old bread. Steel gray hairsuit cut like a secret. He didn't look up when I said, "Good morning, sir." He just murmured something in French. Not Paris textbook French. A warm bell pepper stew of vowels, Old Bay spice, Riverbend rhythm. Louisiana Acadian roots, Huma bayous, the kind of French that sat on porches and played fiddle while the sun went down. Most folks heard gibberish. I heard home I never had. Voulez un café noir, monsieur, I answered before my brain could stop my mouth. Au petit déjeuner, pain grillé, rien sucré. His eyes lifted slow. People say billionaires look through you. He didn't. He looked at me like he'd been locked out of a house for years, and I just cracked the door. "Tu comprends," he said, soft. "You understand." I nodded. Cajun, not Paris. Learned from someone who learned from someone who never left the marsh. I added in English because my hands were shaking. He smiled, not the public one. Boyish, almost grateful. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the empty chair. The floor manager glared daggers from the bar. I perched anyway, heart pounding so hard my apron fluttered. My mother cleaned offices for a linguistics professor. I told him words tripping over each other. When she couldn't afford childcare, she sat me in his office with headphones. French stuck, the coastal kind, stuck deeper. I didn't say the rest. Mom got sick. I dropped classes. The landlord learned my voice. He listened like it mattered. Then the air changed perfume, like cold money. A woman in a cream suit drifted in all diamond edges and thin smile. She looked at me as if I were a stain that would never wash out. Whitney Marcus said, his mouth flattening. My ex-wife. She didn't wave. She didn't have to. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Marcus asked for me to be his server exclusively. The manager swallowed his pride and said, "Of course." And that's how I finished the shift, with my hands steadying plates, while my mind tried to make sense of a door I didn't know existed opening right in front of me. After work, a Blacktown car waited by the employee exit. The driver handed me an envelope and a soft smile. Inside Marcus's private number and a note in tight handwriting, "I have a proposal. Call if you're willing to hear it." I put the card down, called my brother, learned about a summer program he couldn't afford, and stared at the rent due like it was a dare. Then I picked up the card again. 30 minutes later, I rode an elevator to the top of Ellison Tower, legs made of jitter. His office didn't scream money, it hummed it. Floor-to-ceiling windows wood that smelled expensive, silence so thick you could carve your initials. Marcus walked in wearing a charcoal sweater that made him look almost human, not a headline. "I'll be direct," he said. "I'm negotiating access to ports in Guadeloupe. Their principal negotiator refuses to use English. He also speaks the kind of French you recognized this morning. I've hired 7 translators. All of them miss the music." He tapped the table once. "I can't miss music, not on a billion-dollar deal." "You want me to translate?" I said, mostly to hear how ridiculous it sounded out loud. "I want you to be my cultural and linguistic advisor," he answered. 20,000 for the first meeting. This Friday. If it works, we talk long-term. I coughed on my water and smiled, because that's what you do when the floor opens under your feet. Then he leaned in. You didn't just understand the words, Nia. You caught my ghosts. I should have said, let me think. I should have said anything polite and cautious. Instead, I whispered, okay. That night, an alert hit my bank app, an advance I never asked for $50,000. A note for your brother's program and your peace of mind. Consider it an investment in our working relationship. M.E. My first thought, lifesaver. My second, leash. Friday came fast. The private dining room at Lafar felt like a movie set. Opposite us sat Monsieur Darcenne, a Guadeloupe shipping legend in a linen suit, and his grandson Alain, all quiet eyes and careful watchfulness. Darcenne greeted Marcus in a roll of island French that would have knocked most folks off the boat. I caught every curl. He says he respects a man who tries to speak his mother's tongue. I translated, but wonders if a man who builds rockets can read tides. Darcenne smirked. Marcus's lips twitched. The dance had begun. The meeting got tight around a clause about access at Basse-Terre. That's when Darcenne tossed out a proverb about nets catching more than fish and pride drowning first. Marcus would have heard metaphor. I heard a story my mother once told about neighbors sharing storm rope. I asked, may I, and slid in. In our bayou, I told Darcenne in his cadence my neighbor tied his line to mine before hurricane season. We both slept better. 2 lines, 1 roof. The old man's face softened. The room unclenched and the paper between us started writing itself. We won the framework by dessert. In the car, Marcus looked at me like a person watching rain after a long wildfire. You didn't translate, he said. You tuned the room. I wanted to bask in that warmth. I got a text instead. Unknown number. You're in over your head, little waitress. Walk away while you still can. I saved the screenshot, didn't show him. Told myself I was being dramatic. The next morning, drama knocked. Literally. Whitney Crisp, iced uninvited, stood in my hotel doorway at 7:05 a.m. and glided past me like she owned the carpet. Professional courtesy, she said, crossing her legs. Marcus collects brilliant strays, fixes what's broken, then gets bored. 3 months tops. You will become a story I tell over cocktails. She held out a neat list, names, dates, roles. Amanda, public relations gone. Priya product promoted, then shipped out. He doesn't break hearts, Nia. He erases trajectories. I'm his translator, not his whatever I managed. She smiled like a blade. That's how it always starts. When Marcus called to ask me to breakfast, Whitney pressed a finger to her lips. Don't tell him I'm here. I didn't. I also couldn't unknow the list burning a hole in my pocket. At breakfast, I told him about the messages about Whitney. His face went still, too still, the old shutters sliding down. She thinks I have a savior complex, he said finally. Maybe she's right. He took a breath that sounded like sandpaper. What I know is this: something happened at table 12 when you answered me in a language no one else hears. What am I to you, I asked. Employee, project, emergency translator, or... He didn't blink away. I don't know yet, he said, honest as bare hands. But I don't want to lie to you. The board tried to gut him that afternoon emergency meeting, rumors of distraction headlines buzzing like mosquitoes. He survived by 1 vote. I spent that evening calling names on Whitney's list. Half were fine, thriving, promoted. Half had vanished from LinkedIn like stones in deep water. Truth rarely comes pure. It comes salted, complicated. Then Alain knocked on my door. He didn't sit. He held up an old photo, my mother 25 years younger, standing in front of a shotgun house in Lafayette with an older woman, head wrapped in blue. Mère Lucille, he said. My grandfather's cousin by marriage. She taught your mother the old tongue. She also taught Marcus one summer when he got sent south to escape his parents' war. He tilted his head. You and Ellison learned from the same mouth. Destiny is a big word. In that moment, it felt small and heavy like a pebble in your shoe that suddenly explains the ache. Marcus came later, gray at the edges, tie loosened. I showed him the photo. He touched it like it might dissolve. "Lucille made me gumbo when I couldn't sleep," he said, voice rough. "She told me language was a home you carry when you don't have one." He looked up. "Your mother sat on that porch and read me English headlines out loud so I wouldn't fall behind." Something in the room shifted. Not romance, not money, just recognition. Two people realizing the road they're on started years before they ever saw each other. "Board wants me to take a sabbatical," he said finally. "There's a cottage on the bayou. I never visit Lucille's old place. Come with me, not as my consultant, as my companion. Let's figure this out somewhere. The air tells the truth." "People will talk," I said. "Let them," he answered. "I've spent a lifetime worrying about voices that don't pay my rent." 6 months later, I stood on a porch watching water go silver under a setting sun. The world had gotten quieter and bigger at the same time. I ran a small translation shop serving the port and the parish schools. Marcus learned to cook rice without burning it and to listen without interrupting. Some board members still hated me on principle. Whitney stopped texting. The headlines moved on. My brother started his program. We set up a scholarship in Mayor Lucille's name, language, culture bridges. Did I fix a billionaire? No. Did he save me? Also no. We met where two accents crossed and decided not to run. Maybe someday we'll fail each other. Maybe we'll build something that outlasts both of us. I can live with a maybe. It beats the certainty of staying small. You've heard my side. Now I want yours. Is it wrong to accept help from someone with more power if you set your own terms? Or is pride just another kind of hunger that keeps people out in the cold? Tell me what you've seen at your job, in your family, in your town, where understanding someone's language, their real language, changed everything.